and welcome back to another episode of The Book Stop. I'm your host Jen, and I'm very excited to talk about today's episode. But before we begin, there will be spoilers as we talk about major events that unfold within the story. In addition, each episode will have a list of trigger warnings in the description. Be sure to follow the podcast on Instagram at The Book Stop Podcast, and show your support on Patreon for early access to episodes and other additional content. And welcome back to another episode of The Book Stop, and today we are joined by the one and actually only Shelby.
Only Shelby in the whole world.
Yeah, only Shelby.
Everyone else is an imposter.
Yeah. I apologize in advance. We are a little sniffly. We got the little runny nose, so I apologize if we got little sniffles in there.
Dude, it's bad with this weather.
Yeah.
One day being only 21 degrees and then 50 the next day took me out.
If you live in Michigan, you know what we're talking about.
Oh,
when
yeah.
you get winter and spring and summer all in one day. Shelby, what book did you bring and why did you bring it?
I brought Circe by Madeline Miller. Obviously, we did the Song of Achilles a little while ago and written by the same author, and we loved it so much that I was like, why don't we just do Circe and see if we love it just as much?
All right, we're about to find out. Yeah, definitely check out, Song of Achilles after this. Hear our thoughts on that. Before we get started, we're going to play a little game.
God. Oh, not with the sniffles. All right, let's go.
You are going to summarize this book in 30 seconds. And just try your best, and you begin whenever you're ready.
Circe is about a goddess who is actually a witch, observing humans, and she finds them really fascinating, and eventually, because of her curiosity got the best of her, she gets banished to this island, and it's a story of coming into oneself and learning really about the woes of humanity, but also falling in love, navigating that, and falling in love multiple times even. Circe's life was throughout her goddesshood into humanity.
Yeah, absolutely. Sums it up so well, actually. It was a great job. For anybody who hasn't heard of this book, in the house of Helios, Titan god of the sun, a daughter is born, but Circe is a strange child, neither powerful like her father nor alluring like her mother. Turning to a world of mortals, she discovers that she does possess the power of witchcraft. Threatened, Zeus banishes her to a deserted island where she hones her witchcraft, tames wild beasts, and crosses paths with many of the most famous figures in mythology. But there is danger too. Circe draws the wrath of both men and gods. To protect what she loves most, Circe must summon all of her strength and choose once and for all whether she belongs with the gods she is born from or with the mortals she has come to love.
Love this. Okay.
So what is your favorite quote from this book?
This was a good book. I'm not going to deny that at all. I just don't think I loved it as much as I loved A Song of Achilles, and I don't think that there was necessarily one quote that stood out to me the most. But I thought that there was kind of a foreshadowing in this quote that I really liked. It goes, sorcery cannot be taught. You find it yourself, or you do not. The reason I love it is that it's alluding to not only sorcery, but I think it comes into self-love, self-confidence, power, especially because throughout her journey on this deserted island during her banishment, she does come into her own power, her own confidence, and if anything, because she knows she's not validated by anybody else, but she knows that she is a powerful sorceress. She knows that she is one to be feared, but it's because she found it within herself. Yeah. Again, that quote isn't anything big, but I think it's a huge foreshadowing for a lot of themes within the book itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Like how you said of her coming into herself and discovering herself, her being exiled on that island, it was a lot, and it did do a lot of bad things, but it did a lot of good things for her and her own confidence and her becoming who she was and how important she is in history.
As a child, she went to everyone else to find the answers, and nobody really, they gave her their own view, and God's not having their own humanity. They gave her really shallow answers, and I think that with this, she found her own view of the world, which I think is super important, especially because it affects how she interacts with especially men in the book.
Yes, absolutely. The quote that I brought is Penelope and her son have come to Aea, are staying with her, and this is right after Odysseus has died. Also, if you haven't listened to the podcast before, we're gonna spoil a lot of stuff, so. Circe is looking upon Penelope, and she says, I looked at her as vivid in my doorway as the moon in the autumn sky. Her eyes held mine, gray and steady. It is a common saying that women are delicate creatures. Flowers, eggs, anything that may be crushed in a moment's carelessness. If I've ever believed it, I no longer did. I just love that because I think it's a statement that really sums up this whole book of having characters that you don't expect to come out on top and be strong. Especially the women figures in this book are seen as very delicate, as she had put it. They're the exact opposite, every single one of them. I feel like if you read this book, you should also no longer like listen to that statement. But yeah, her mom, her sister, Penelope, like they're all very strong feminine figures in this book, which is like one of my likes. Yeah, I really like that quote.
Oh yeah.
And then the other quote I had is kind of a two-parter.
Ooh, okay. 2 for 1.
2 for 1. So it's talking about the fates. It's talking about prophecy, which is a huge thing in any kind of mythology story is prophecy. Yeah. This one says, among the gods, there are few who have the gift of prophecy, the ability to peer into the murk and glimpse the fates that will come. Not everything may be foreseen. Most gods and mortals have lives that are tied to nothing. They tangle and wend here and there according to no set plan. But then there are those who wear their destinies like nooses, whose lives run straight as planks. The other quote that I have, and it says, the fates were laughing at me, at Athena, at all of us. It was their favorite bitter joke. Those who fight against prophecy only draw it more tightly around their throat. Just kind of showing how, one, prophecy isn't necessarily like something that is set in stone. Like, you can always change your fate. You can always like do something different than your future. But it's also like prophecy is so easy to set in this time because people were so predictable. Because they let it sit on their necks like a noose and they don't stray from it. Achilles, for example, how he was kind of raised and grown up and how he eventually didn't stray from his prophecy because it was just something that was told to him.
I think it's in like Kung Fu Panda.
Sorry.
Total left turn.
What a statement.
In Kung Fu Panda, I'm pretty sure the old turtle sensei man, he was saying that like the more that you try and stray from your path or from your destiny, the more that you're actually aligning to it. Something along those lines. Personally, I don't believe in anything like destiny, but believe that like that kind of sentiment aligns a little bit more with that ideology of the farther you try and go from your path, the more you're actually leaning into it. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know if it's because people are predictable, but I think that people, like, that's all that people could rely on. Them avoiding whatever their destiny is would actually take them right to it, if that makes sense. And so there was multiple times that tried to happen in this book, and it ended up just failing anyways.
Athena coming after Circe's son, and how Circe is pushed and pushed and pushed, and in the end he does take it. Well, he leaves the island. That makes sense.
Yeah, Athena herself tried to outrun fate and couldn't. Mm-hmm. You know, so that type of theme is really strong in Greek mythology in general.
Mm-hmm. So what are some things that you liked about this book?
I love that literally this book is the definition of like female rage. Multiple times we have seen Circe even admit to idea or stereotype that women are like soft and delicate, and if anything, like they're forces to be reckoned with. And even Circe herself was almost portrayed as that delicate damsel until she was banished to the island and then came into her own power, encountered her first boat of men, and what that changed her into, and like how she dealt with it. And it wasn't just like a cowering woman. No, she tricked, she fought back, she like retaliated, she said no more, never again. Yeah. And I think that that's really like what the feminine rage is. Not cowering and not hiding and not being scared, but if anything, like fighting back differently. Not in war, but in
the mind.
Yeah, with my battle of the wits. That's exactly it. I love that. I love when the feminine rage is depicted, I don't want to say accurately because everybody's different in their view of it, but like in total badassery.
Yeah, that kind of plays off of my eyes. Like, I really like how Circe is kind of mortally gray. She's not antagonist, but she's not a protagonist. Does bad things, but she does a lot of good things. And you get to see that internal mindset of her trying to decide what to do. And she does things for selfish reasons, and she does selfless things. Like, she's very much in the middle. She doesn't stray on either side for too long. She always brings it back to, it's harsh to say that she's selfish, but in the sense, like, it's always been kind of her, and then her, her son eventually comes along. So it's always been kind of her, because she's the only one that's ever looked out for her. It's always been her. So I really loved, like you had said, feminine rage as well, as you get to see her come into herself, and like the scene with her dad, or at the very end when she's telling him off. I love that scene so much.
Oh, yeah. Especially, too, Madeline Miller does a great job depicting things as, like, very poetically, but also kind of, like, factual. Like, this is what happened. And, like, this one, I think, was a little bit more emotion thrown into it. Like, you see the passion behind the rage and the love and everything that she does for Circe, whereas, like, in her Song of Achilles, I didn't get as much, like, there were passionate lines, for sure, but I feel like that was told a little bit more as a recounting of how everything is, rather than this is in lifetime. You see, like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I just, like, this is the passion I felt, the emotion. Like, there was a lot more emotion behind this, which I liked.
That's another thing I really liked, was it felt like it was a story of her past. Like, she would be like, well, now I know what actually happens, and now my feelings are different about it. This is what I thought was going to happen, but now I know that wasn't what was going to happen. It was told in like a past tense. She was reading it to you type deal.
Yeah.
So then that changes with her alternation of like how she felt then to how she feels now. So you see that in her writing. But Madeline Miller is one of my favorite authors. I'm sure I've mentioned that in the last one we did with her book. Her writing style, oh my god. If you haven't read one of these books, what are you doing?
I seriously think that this is such an underrated book. Like, again, I didn't love it as much as I did Song of Achilles, but I loved it nonetheless. And I think that everyone freaks out about Song of Achilles, but, like, Circe, too. Like, come on. This is... Again, if you like the, like you said, morally gray, female, feminine rage, this is the book for you, really. Yeah. It's so good, so well put together, poetic, beautiful. I was crying. Oh my god, there was a moment. I shouldn't be crying over a lion, and yeah, that's exactly what I was doing. I was tearing up. I was like, she's all alone and her lion died.
Another thing is, like, it's so full of lore, too. And like you said, she makes it feel real, and she makes it feel like it actually happened. The lore in here is so rich. To do Song of Achilles took her 10 years to write. This one, I'm not positive how long it took her to write, but it had to take some time, because there's a lot of history in here. And that's why I like this one a little bit. Like, I love Song of Achilles, don't get me wrong. This one is like neck to neck, because I love how much more rich it is with lore. And we see the more god side. With the Song of Achilles, it was very like just Achilles and Patroclus. Here we get to see more of the gods: Athena, Helios, what's her face, the monster girl, Scalia. I don't know,
I can never pronounce it. Or who's the god that was hanging up by chains, and like, the
Prometheus.
You saw that, like, the cruelty of the gods to, like, the humanity of her humanity in that. So beautiful. Like, she tied in so many different mythology stories into this.
The Minotaur and the labyrinth, and it's all in there too. Like it's so good. I love the callback to Achilles. I love that we talked about him and his lover.
Oh yeah. And I like too that you get Odysseus's side of it too. He was like, I liked Achilles enough. He was all right. We needed him, so like skill on the battlefield. Patroclus, though, he didn't like me so much, but the good ones never do. And I'm like, I like the fact that you get like a different side of it, and that you get to hear other side of someone's perspective.
You get to see Odysseus in a different light in this book than you do in Song of Achilles. You get to see him at his lowest and his most vulnerable, I think. With him just being here, falling in love with Circe. I don't know if he ever really fell in love. It seemed like he did.
He was almost complacent until, like, I don't want to say his honor, but his, like, duty as a husband got to the better of him. I think, to me, he would have preferred to have stayed, but, like, also was like, I did make a promise, and I have a son out there, and, like, he's my legacy, so I should probably do my fatherly duty, but then he turned into a total horrible guy.
The last thing I want to say is a huge shout out to the author of the audiobook, Perdita Weeks. Oh my God.
Beautiful. Honestly, I could listen to her read a million books and I would never get bored. It's so soft-spoken, but also, like,
stern.
Yeah.
It's, her voice is beautiful. They picked an absolute amazing actress, I guess, like voice
actress, yeah.
To play Circe.
Oh, so good.
Which is interesting because they had said that Circe's voice sounds so bird-like because it sounds mortal. Like, if this is what bird-like sounds like, what do the actual gods sound like? Because they sound like, chimes and beautiful sounds. Yeah. So, oh, God. Okay.
So, I agree. Honestly, like, I think I fell asleep listening to this book, not because I was bored, but because it was so, like, calming and soothing. But then when there was emotion, you could tell that there was the emotion behind it, like, the passion. God. Someone who can convey so much just by audio alone.
Has my heart.
Yeah. My heartstrings, literally, my ear strings and heartstrings being plucked.
So what are some things that you didn't like?
Okay, so trigger warning for anybody who is about to listen. I'm about to talk about SA, sexual assault. So if you want to skip past this, you can. People who are assigned female at birth have been raised to fear, strangers and stuff. And that, because, you never know if you can get assaulted and stuff. And, like, that's a society we lived in. And I hated that there wasn't really necessarily, like, a trigger warning for this. Because that was not something I was expecting. I thought that this was, like, a coming into her own type of book. And then suddenly, like, that's the reason that, like, almost what ignites her, like, her rage is that, like, is being, like, assaulted. And I guess it's just, like, sometimes that is what ignites, like, female rage, I guess. In my heart, I just wish it was anything other than that. Yeah. And that was really hard to listen to because I was listening to it at work. And suddenly, like, the first time, because I listened to this a couple times, and the first time I listened to it, I was like, whoa, did that just really happen? And, like, it rocked me to my core, too, because it was just raw. I don't want to say, like, lifelike, but it was just someone's, like, encounter or someone's experience with that is always traumatic. And, like, it wasn't something I was expecting. It was, maybe if I was paying more attention, I would have, like, noticed. But the first time I listened to it, it was like, whoa, did that really happen? Like, to me, it's kind of out of left field.
I can kind of see that. I think Madeline did a pretty well job of setting it up in the sense that kind of got the hint of it if you were, like, paying attention to the kind of reading between the lines. The second that the boat landed and only men came on, I was like, okay, so that's probably what's going to happen. And when they were asking about the husband or the brother or the son, the male figures in the island, it pinpointed more and more, and you're just like, okay, yeah, it's going to happen. Yeah, there could have been a trigger warning, but also it's hard to give a trigger warning for those kinds of things in books without, like, putting a fake label on it. I feel like that's just to the reader's discretion to, like, kind of look that up too. I think that it was good that she only put it in there really once. She didn't go into depth like some authors do, tell every single retelling of it.
Right, and it wasn't graphic or anything.
Yeah, it wasn't graphic. I think that she does a good job where she's hinting at it and say, hey, this is what's happened, but this is something that, like, Circe experienced alone, so I don't want to tell. It's kind of like with her and her love interests and, like, all the men she's with during it. She never goes into detail about their nights together. She just says, I bring them to my bed. Because it feels very personable for Circe. Yes, we all do have this hindsight of, like, seeing into Circe's life, but there's still some that are still even private to Circe. And, like, she doesn't share it with anybody. Not even a book that she's telling about herself. She keeps it to herself. It was, very intense when it first comes up, but I think that she did a pretty level ground where she's able to tell the story the way she needs to tell it. Readers to understand, like, how Circe lived without having to go into hyper detail and to, like, turn people off from the book.
Right. Because that just feels like, I guess, almost like a stereotypical, like, that's what ignites the feminine rage rather than, like, maybe something else. But I did appreciate, like you said, it was discreet. It wasn't into graphic detail about, she didn't beat a dead horse with it, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
She, like,
or a
you
dead pig, if you want to get
yeah. It was almost like it happened, and then these were the results of that happening, like her turning men into pigs, and stuff like that. And I love the fact that was almost her retribution for what happened, was that she turned them into what she saw, which was pigs.
I feel like she was always kind of rageful. She pushed it down so much with her father and her sisters and brother and, you know, all the other gods out there that put her here. The final tipping point for her to just take her magic and do what she can with it to make the world a little bit better. And she's always pushed it down because that's what her father expected. Anything else you want to add to your dislike?
Oh my god, the fact that she ended up with her boyfriend's son, almost. Half-brother stepdad.
Half-brother stepdad, yeah.
Oh, no!
It happens to the best of us.
No! Try talking about that in kindergarten when you try and describe your family tree.
I mean, to be fair, in mythology, it's not a big deal.
Okay,
but it was a bit weird. I was like, okay, huh? So this is one of my main dislikes of this book. Okay. So
the stepbrother dad?
No.
Oh.
So I fully went in blind, believing this was a sapphic book. It is not. She ended up with a man. Hello?
Yeah.
No. I'm sorry. That knocked it down a rating, that's for sure. Yeah, it's not sapphic. I was like, oh, Penelope's coming? Maybe it's Penelope she ends with.
Oh, wouldn't that be iconic? Like, just rewriting history. And then just be like, bye, Odysseus, and then they end up together. Oh my god.
I 100% believe that this was sapphic. It was not. So I was like, oh, okay, that's disappointing, but sure. Other things, I think it was a little bit slow in some parts. Got to the point where it started to feel like we were kind of going in circles with a lot of stuff with not a lot of like going on. The magic system was very interesting. I wish it was more in depth. I wish we saw that a little bit more because I thought it was fascinating. She's sitting here turning men into pigs, doing all this stuff, and I would have loved to see a little bit more of that.
I would have loved to have learned what her ins and outs were with magic. What were her limitations? If it was a part of her, how did it feel to her? Like, with a lot of New Age spirituality coming to fruition nowadays, when we're talking about, like, witchcraft and stuff, you can actually feel it, like, manifesting within you, but, like, New Age spirituality today is differently. I would have loved to have known, like, fantasy character, what it's like for, like, a witch. You know what I mean? I have plenty of witch friends who, like, talk about it, who all describe, like, magic a little bit differently, whereas I'm always interested to know.
So I want to talk about Circe a little bit. So Circe is very interesting. So she is a goddess. I really loved that we get to see a little bit more of, I guess, the mortals aspect with the gods' perspective. So seeing Circe with the way that she not only treats the gods, but how she treats the mortals in her life. With her being almost like mortalist herself. I don't know if mortalist is a word, but
we're making one today, baby. We got it.
Like her and Daedalus is kind of like the first taste that we get to see of, well, that's a lie. We actually have that stupid guy that I hate. And I didn't even write his name down because I hate him.
You're talking about in the very beginning?
Yeah. The guy on the boat that she turns into a god.
Yeah.
I don't even remember his name because I hate him so much.
Yeah, that was super pathetic. But I think that also tied into her view, like you were saying, the view of the mortal and the god side, that suddenly, like, a mortal who becomes god, you see how it literally destroys not only, like, physically their humanity, but emotionally and intellectually their humanity as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He, like, was in love with her, and then the second that he got what he wanted, he just, like, was like, okay, I want to go now. I'm gonna fall in love with this girl, and then she turns her into a monster. But I love that never changes for her. She's always kind of been on the mortal side, I guess, with Hermes as he comes to visit. She eventually starts to fall for him, and then she kind of sees what he's there for and is like, never mind. And then again, Odysseus coming onto her island, which is a prophecy. The only prophecy that she got was like, hey, you're gonna see Odysseus one day. That's all she got.
That's all the fates got for me, man. Yeah, she got shorted on that. She should have had something awesome, like, I don't know, becoming the world's most powerful witch.
Yeah, but yeah, I just really loved her connection with the mortals and how it ties into her at the end, which we're going to talk about in a second. It's just great. And it's great character development with her, especially when she becomes a mother and how that kind of shifts her mindset on that. I love Circe so much. I love her.
No, it's good. She's cool in my book.
She's kind of cool. So who would you say is your favorite character?
I feel like I always say, like, the main character when I'm on this podcast.
It's so funny because everyone that comes on always says that. They're always like, I feel weird picking the main one, or I always pick the main one. I think it's okay to pick the main character.
Well, I think that in this case, Circe is my favorite because she is the most well-rounded. Like, she sees the best part and the ugliest part of humanity, right? She sees the most beautiful and the ones that she loves, and the ugly and the most who took advantage of her. Yeah. And so, like, she sees both ends, and she, like, still chooses to love the good in humanity. the potential that humanity has to offer. Like I said before, too, is that you see in the gods that the gods lose their humanity emotionally and intellectually. And, like, I feel like everyone outside of Circe was kind of like I don't want to say one-dimensional, but, like, I
can see that, yeah.
I feel like that the characters around her kind of just, like, paled in comparison to her.
Yeah. It's hard when we get so much of Circe and so much character development from her beginning to her, you know, her exile to her becoming a mother and then her at the end. We get so much. We have to follow literally thousands of years with her. It's hard to care about anybody else.
Yeah.
Because you're so much on her side. One of my characters is also Circe. For the same reasons, like her humanity. She felt mortal and she responded in a very mortal way. Like she reacted to her emotions a lot.
Yeah.
And I really liked that she didn't think she was higher than any. Okay, there was some times where she thought she was a little bit higher than other people, but I forgot she was a god half the time until she literally brings it up and is like, I'm a goddess. And I'm like, oh, you are actually a goddess. I forget.
You're like, yes, queen.
Yes, queen. Because she doesn't act upon it. And she, yeah, again, feels very, very mortal. The other one I said was, I really like the Fates. I think they're very conniving and sneaky. Mm-hmm. And they're a character that forget they're there until they're like right in front of you. Yeah. And it's things that your character, that your main character is like scared of. Mm-hmm. And I just really like them. I wish they had a more of a physical form in the books, but I also like their kind of sneaking behind the back door kind of thing.
One person I really like that I don't think it's a lot of credit is Penelope. Because honestly, Penelope like goes to the island that she knows her husband went to, kind of scope out who Circe was, and like especially after Odysseus like died. They had really like nothing else. Yeah. And so she went there and was like, wonder what this place is that's so beautiful that like captured my husband. And instead I think fell in love with the security and ended up like befriending Circe and wanting to learn from Circe and all this like all these things. Wasn't just someone who was soft, but was like who wanted to confront the mistress, stood her ground, made educated, sound decisions, and again, like you said before, wasn't just a delicate woman, was a steadfast, stern-eyed woman who was quick-wit, learned from her surroundings. And I really like that these women weren't one-dimensional.
Again, the women character in here, it's just so refreshing to have, like, actual women character that you can support. Because lately I've been reading a lot of books that don't either, one, have female characters, or two, have any that actually have a purpose, I guess. And I'm not saying the books I've done on the podcast, like other books. It's just so refreshing to have a book where you can like sympathize but also like support whatever they do. Yeah. Being able to see it from like a different perspective, and then having it written by a woman is even better. Yeah. I fully do like believe that if this was written by a man, I would not like it as much as I do now.
Oh yeah. Alrighty. Huge shout out to the Patreon subscribers, Nick W, Ashley A, Bree P, Tim M, and Lulu. Alright, so thank you guys so much for supporting the podcast. If it wasn't for you, I don't think it would be as worth it to do this without you guys.
Thank you, Shelby. So just taking a second here to give a shout out. You guys are amazing. You make it worthwhile. I love doing this, and I'm glad that some people are listening to the podcast. So the next thing I really want to talk about is loving, but then eventually losing, or just never loving at all. I think that's a huge thing for Circe because of her being a goddess and falling in love with humans, mortals, whatever you want to call them. She never gets used to it. It's not something that has ever saved her soul from loving these people, but when her son comes along is like the biggest one. Watching him grow old in her arms and then eventually leaving the island and feeling that sense of loss. It just brings like that conclusion of, is it good to love and have those feelings for so long and then to eventually lose it and feel even stronger feelings, or to never love at all? I think that's an interesting concept that they brought into this book.
That's part of humanity, right? Because life is short for us, and we're like, what's the point of life without love, really?
I think there's a song about it.
Are you?
I think there's a song about it.
Oh, probably somewhere. At first I thought you were making fun of me, and I was like, is there a certain song you're pointing to?
No.
But yeah, like seriously, what is the point of life without love? Love of, either self or anything, really. But in this case, they're showcasing what purpose of, loving others. What helps Circe retain her humanity is that knowing that love for her does get kind of taken away personally. And, that's why she wants to go with her ex-boyfriend's son at the end and turn into a human. Is her decision was to decide to, not outlive this love and for it to not be taken away so quickly. And I think that a lot of the gods kind of portrayed that is that love is meaningless because they live forever, and the people that they love are also going to live forever, and so love is almost, it's not fleeting. And eternity is a long time to grasp mentally. That's forever to grasp. And I think that that's why, love actually turns into an infatuation as, immortals, is because they have forever. And so they can love or be infatuated with multiple things. Yeah. And because Circe was so appreciated humanity as well, that I think she really grasped that idea that, they don't live forever. I'm falling in love with these people and who experience these intense emotions such as love and stuff. For her, it was more important to not
that love.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if she loses it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's crazy that a lot of the gods that she grew up with will never get to experience that, no matter how long they live. Well, she got to experience it so many times. And yeah, she lost it every single time, and it broke her every single time. But she was able to get back to a place where she would feel comfortable being able to experience that love again. And then with her becoming immortal and being able to finally live out her life as a mortal with her family is a really nice. So who would you say is your favorite relationship?
The one that she has with herself. Again, because we saw her grow throughout the thousands of years. The fact that she chose this decision to live with her family at the end, she chose that for herself. She never felt that her goddesshood was a gift or a burden, really. I think she just found it a part of who she was. And once she created this family for herself, she was these are also who I'm a part of, and I don't want to live without them. And so I don't feel to her she held goddesshood or her witchcraft into such high regards that she was I'm going to lose out on who I am. She didn't put her identity in just one aspect of herself. Yeah. Instead, she chose something for her, for herself. The gods around her were so full of themselves that that was their whole identity, and to lose that, what is there where she is dynamic enough, fallen in love with who she was, that she was comfortable letting a piece of her go to have happiness. To give almost away a pebble to gain a whole pearl type of deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was cool that she got with Odysseus, but Odysseus turned the narrative on her in history and made her into this evil witch. So maybe that's just me, and I didn't like Odysseus from Song of Achilles anyway, so I didn't think garbage. I don't think he had much of a redeeming quality about him. So I wasn't super impressed, and everyone else was just kind of there for the passing, except for her son's half brother.
I said that my favorite relationship was Circe, her lion.
Yes! Oh my god!
Just a woman and her cat for 100 years.
Oh my god! And to think, oh my god, I'm at work trying not to cry over a lion.
God. The fact that she never named her lion is the crazy part. She has always called her lion. She's never given it a name.
You were saying before that even Circe keeps things private, and I almost wonder if a security blanket, right? And I wonder if she didn't want anybody else to know her, to identify with or to know her lion as well as she did, because that's, like you said, her lion.
Yeah, that's
true.
So
maybe she gave her a name and we just don't know.
True. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What is another story that you would want Madeline Miller to write in mythology?
Oh, God. Hear yours, because that's actually a really great question. I don't think I would have ever thought of that.
Okay. Again, I absolutely adore Madeline Miller. I think she writes amazing stories. And I would love her to write a story of Persephone and Hades. That would be kind of cool to see, Persephone's point of view of that. Or Hades, I guess. I don't know if we need another man as our POV, but
I think, if anything, Aphrodite. Because Aphrodite
Medusa?
Oh my god!
Medusa!
Oh my god, watch, that's probably going to be it. Oh my god.
That would be... Oh, hold on. I changed my mind. We're doing Medusa.
Medusa, yes! Oh my god, another Greek tragedy. Yes. Okay. Number one. That would be my number one. But number two, I think like what originally came to mind before you said Medusa, was Aphrodite, because she was supposed to be wed off to Hephaestus. Aphrodite actually has often like affairs with Ares. Madeline Miller has spun these narratives. I wonder how she would spin that one, especially because Aphrodite was often kind of like coined as flirting around, and just people portray Aphrodite usually just like sexual, sensual woman, and I think
she was more than that.
Yeah, like a personality, like rather than just someone who's just only has like physical beauty and sexual appeal.
Madeline, you have a few books you need to start writing.
Hey girl, if you want to like catch up and talk sometime, I got some ideas.
So we're talking about the ending. I don't know if I loved it. I did love her becoming immortal. I think that was a good way to end the story.
Yeah.
But with Cicalas, the girl that she turned into a monster, fighting her and killing her, and then her coming back to our island, it just was very fast. It was very fast. I didn't expect it to happen that fast. The epilogue we have with her and her daughters, and, you know, she goes to see Telelegis or whatever his name is, her son.
Yeah.
It wasn't what I expected, that's for sure.
Yeah, she chose a family, and I think that she really did love them in her own way. But like, to me, I feel like other relationships have had a little bit more passion behind them, and this one was just almost like it doesn't need to be as passionate, but it felt more of a logical, like she's tired of being a goddess. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
She was tired of being a goddess, so she was ready to hang up her hat rather than like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes they say like relationships who are the most passionate are the most toxic, and maybe that's true. There could have been a little bit of balance of both rather than like this one just felt like she was tired and she was ready to hang up her hat, and she found someone she was comfortable with. Yeah. And she settled. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that she was just ready, because I don't think she would have ever loved anybody as much as she loved her son.
Yeah.
And I don't think she was ever going to be ready to let him go. So I feel like her becoming immortal was always destined to happen after the birth of her son. Eventually, when she does come to the conclusion, like, oh, maybe I can be immortal, I think there was enough to support her love with Telemachus or whatever his name is, and we get to see their relationship a little bit, but I don't think it was enough to support why she ended up with him.
Yeah.
So.
No, I agree. I really wish, too, that, like, especially since she's on an island on her own, she also could have explored the female side of human race rather than the male side of... There was so much opportunity there. She's on an island by herself. Ain't nobody really caring that much.
No, she had the nymphs there.
Okay, yeah, like, okay. They did say in the book that she really kind of just kept to herself. Like, the nymphs were there.
Yeah, she hated them. So.
Yeah, she found them obnoxious. So I think that there could have been more aspects of humanity that she could have explored.
I mean, yeah, there's so much out there, but she settled.
She settled.
So I have a game for you. So a lot of our witchcraft has to do with like herbs and roots and stuff like that. So I have some herbs here, and you're just going to tell me what they do for our body.
Okay.
Yeah, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, the first one I have is arrowroot.
Oh, God. I have no idea. Is it treat urinary tract infections?
Yep.
Because that's...
Yep.
Okay.
Feverfew.
Oh, is that for fevers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Write the name. Okay. Mint.
Oh, gastrointestinal. Like, they relieve, like, your stomach. No? Yeah, that's a lie. That's a lie.
I mean, it can do that, but that's not what this one's specifically for.
Okay.
I didn't cross-reference. I just pulled up a website, and this is, like, the main thing that's for.
Okay. So I was going to say, relieve gastrointestinal issues.
It's for headaches.
Okay, fine.
Bay leaf.
Is it liver conditions and high cholesterol?
No, it treats dandruff.
Okay.
Chamomile.
Anxiety and relaxation.
Golden seal.
Is that liver conditions and high cholesterol?
Nope. It's skin and eye irritation.
I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, me neither. Milk thistle.
Is that what liver conditions and high cholesterol?
Yeah.
Yes! You pick the same one and you're at least gonna get one right.
That's true. That is true. Baldo. Or it could be Boldu.
I don't know. Is that easing nausea?
Mm-mm. It's the gastrointestinal one.
Okay.
Ginger.
Oh my god, would that fight infections? That's easy nausea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say gastrointestinal issues and nausea. Oh my god, I know that. I take ginger for when I eat dairy. Fun fact, I'm lactose intolerant.
And the last one we have is barberry.
Is that one fighting infections?
Yeah.
Yeah, keep guessing the same one, guys. It'll work sometimes.
Yay!
Yay!
You win!
Did I win? Did I
so.
really?
What would you say in this one, in your own opinion, your own words, if you were writing this book, want to do something a little bit different? What are some things that you would have changed or done differently?
I said it once and I'll say it again. There are more aspects than just men of humanity to explore. Probably it, just because of course she gives up her goddesshood for a man.
No, I agree. I wish she was like maybe a bi queen, you know?
Right. I mean, like that. Okay, that's not.
I get it. But,
yeah, like that's not everyone's like boat, and I get it. With that being said, though, too, like,
have you seen a man? I said the same thing. I wish there was a connection that I cared about.
Especially because she's so, like, interested in humanity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would have really liked to have explored humanity from a woman's perspective because she is a woman, but also from the perspective of different women. But I get it. Like, she only got sailors to her island.
Yeah, and
so
women weren't sailors then.
Right.
I did say that I wish there was a little bit more of a magic system that we could see. I wish we would have saw more in depth in her magic.
Yeah,
I wish there was more drive into that, especially with it being such an important part of the plot and her spending so much time on the island alone. I wish we would have saw a little bit more besides her just boiling them and, you know, doing all this stuff. So so we're kind of drawing to a close here. So sad.
Yeah.
But before we go, we do one last thing, a little rating scale, but we do it a little bit different here on the Book Stop. We make up our own thing. So I would rate Circe by Madeline Miller 3 sailors shifted into swine out of 5. I really enjoyed this book. I don't see myself reading again anytime soon. I would love to pick it back up again, maybe in a couple of years when I've kind of forgotten what happened. But I think it's just a good book to kind of just pick up, read one time, and I think you got the gist of it. I think there are a lot of memorable moments in it, and there's a lot of amazing quotes in it. It took me so long to find a quote. She did such a great job with Circe's character. I just wish there was more characters that drive the plot, and I wish, again, the more magic system in it.
I would give it, like, probably 4 lions. Song of Achilles, I think part of the reason it didn't rate as high is just because, like, it's written in a very similar style as, like, Song of Achilles, and, like, that's unfortunately, like, not anything you can really, when someone has such a great, like, artistry to their writing and implements that into a second, because the first book was so different, you can't help but, like, this one just doesn't live up to it as much, so it's not as revolutionary. First of all. Second of all, disappointed that she didn't at least explore.
Maybe she had all those nymphs for a while. Maybe she did explore and never really talked about it. Maybe
I'm just being judgmental. But also too, like I said before, I didn't really like the fact, to me, ignited that feminine rage was like the essay, and so I really wished, she could have been angry from everyone else, and I wish that you would have seen her almost like try and tamper that rage down throughout, the book, rather than like it all just coming out all at once, if that makes sense. Because I feel like she got like upset, but not angry. Yeah. And I really would have liked to have seen that anger a little bit more.
Because they call her the evil witch.
Yeah.
I wish there was more evil, I guess, besides her just turning men into to swine.
Right. But again, men have written history, so they're going to write the narrative, and to them, she is evil.
That's true. True. Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking about this book.
Yeah, always. I'm glad that we chose this one. It's like almost full circle. Song of Achilles, now this.
And then maybe a Medusa book coming soon.
Madeline Miller, if you're listening.
She's listening.
You know what, girl? Hit us up. We take back every negative thing we ever said about this. This is perfect. Let's get a book deal together.
I don't know if we ever said any negative things. I don't recall any.
Right. They're just, maybe like some critiques here and there.
Keep distracting. I'm going to delete it. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on and talking about this book. I don't think we have anything scheduled this year.
I think this was it. I think you've gotten so popular that woe is me, the peasant who can barely get on.
Stop. If you guys want to see Shelby back on again, interact with this episode, share, all that good stuff, and we'll see you next time.
Until next time, whenever that is. Bye.
Thank you for turning the pages with us today. If you've enjoyed this episode, show your support by leaving a review, sharing the episode, and following the podcast on Instagram at The Book Stop Podcast. Join us on Patreon for early access to episodes and other additional content. Thank you for listening, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Hope you are too.